You're watching the hard facts from the CNN News 18 Federal Bank Primetime Studio. Viewers, on June 20th at 8 p.m., just 5 days ago, the entire India bloc ecosystem was going gaga. A Delhi court had just awarded Delhi Chief Minister Kejriwal bail. You'll remember that, viewers. The Rouse Avenue Court, special ED court, and the Lady Justice there had said that the case was flat. The verdict, of course, was greeted by a lusty exhortation of the virtues of truth prevailing over lies. The exact phrase coined by India bloc groupies was that, and I quote, "Truth can be troubled but never defeated," unquote. The insinuation was obvious that the Enforcement Directorate had manufactured a case against Kejriwal timed to the election to discredit him and eventually finish off his political career. The aim was to queer the field in favor of the BJP. When reminded that it is unwise to link the grant of bail to proclamations of innocence, yours truly was given an earful by India bloc sympathizers on this show. I was accused of deliberately not recognizing that the grant of bail is almost akin to being deemed innocent, given PMLA's high section 45 bar for bail. In other words, viewers, it is one of those sections that is applied precisely because the nature of the offense is indisputable, and therefore getting bail is almost impossible. In fact, viewers, one newspaper even ran the exact headline. Today, viewers, today, the High Court has overruled the lower court. The Rouse Avenue Court and Justice Nyay Bindu, as she is called, has been overruled. The High Court has backed the Enforcement Directorate to the hilt and denied Delhi Chief Minister Kejriwal bail. The embattled Chief Minister is now to remain in Tihar jail. In a matter of 5 precious days, Kejriwal has gone from living in a democracy, presumably, to living in a gulag, viewers. At least that's what we are going to have to believe. Indeed, viewers, on June 20th, the Congress had declared that bail for Kejriwal was a, quote, victory for democracy, unquote, and the defeat of, quote, Modi's dictatorship, unquote. Sample the euphoria that frankly tinged on the absurd on that evening of June 20th. Let me run you through, viewers. The first off the block was Atishi Marlena, who was the Delhi minister, viewers. Satyamev Jayate, truth alone triumphs, she proclaimed. Then came Somnath Bharti, who said truth has prevailed. Very soon case will be dropped, unquote. Akshay Marathe, another AAP leader, said Kejriwal getting bail is as good as a certificate of innocence, unquote. Nana Patole, Maharashtra Congress chief, said, quote, bail order shows Kejriwal was trapped on false charges, unquote. Kapil Sibal, Rajya Sabha MP, said, quote, bail was long overdue. Justice delivery system has been unfair, unquote. Sharad Pawar, NCP SP chief, what did he say, viewers? He said bail shows that any plot to overthrow won't succeed in democracy. Suddenly, viewers, democracy was alive again. Democracy zinda hai. Supriyo Bhattacharya, JMM leader, said, quote, belief in judiciary rewarded. This will determine a new direction, unquote. Viewers, there were others, sundry comments made by the servile journalistic ecosystem also, viewers. Several sympathizers crawled out of the woodwork, clambering over each other's backs to give Indian democracy a certificate. Viewers, you might recall, stung the Enforcement Directorate a day later on the 21st of June moved the High Court and opposed the bail. The grounds were pointed. and the ED launched into a scathing takedown of the lower court judge and her reasoning. The ED began by saying that the trial court order was perverse and one-sided, that ED arguments were curtailed by the trial court. The trial court conclusions were based on wrong facts and wrong dates. Bribe givers' admission was ignored by the trial court. Credibility of witnesses can't be tested at the stage of bail. Supreme Court has not stayed High Court's April 9 order affirming legality of Kejriwal's arrest. ED has given an end-to-end money trail to the trial court. The case of vicarious liability, since AAP is accused of money laundering, and the ED for good measure also pulled out an excerpt, viewers, from the judgment where the judge said that there were too many documents to read. God alone knows what the hurry was, viewers, but anyhow, too many documents to read, and therefore, viewers, the bail is granted. The judge had, of course, summarily dismissed the ED case. ED didn't show any link between Vijay Nair and Arvind Kejriwal, the judge said. No direct evidence against Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. ED silent on how AAP proceeds of crime were utilized for Goa polls. Bigger proportion of alleged amount remains to be traced out. ED silent on why accused is not named in CBI case or the ECI FIR. And a whole litany, viewers. It goes into many points on the basis of which she proclaimed that Kejriwal should get bail. In fact, she even hinted at one point, or in fact said at one point, categorically, investigating agency is not acting without bias against Arvind Kejriwal. Now, viewers, when the High Court overrules you and deflates this euphoria, what to make of it? Let's open this up. Let me begin first with Shehzad Poonawalla, the BJP national spokesperson. Mr. Poonawalla, it's only fair that you begin the debate tonight and state your case, because the AAP had said on that day that democracy had been rescued from a gulag and that Mr. Kejriwal was innocent, the ED was this, that, the other. You've heard me. What do you make of today's decision by the High Court?
First of all, Rahul, thank you very much. U-turns are common to the Aam Aadmi Party. We've all seen that how in Ram Leela Maidan they've gone from Anna to Lalu, from Jadu to Daru, from Swaraj to Sharab, from calling for arrest of Sonia and Rahul Gandhi to standing shoulder to shoulder with them, demanding that they don't get arrested in the Sharab Ghotala. But this U-turn has surprised us all. I mean, imagine on 20th, democracy is alive, 21st, democracy is dead, 23rd and 24th, democracy is alive again, 25th, democracy is dead. Although 50 years ago, 25th of June, democracy was actually dead. But having said that, you get my drift. This kind of conditional commitment to constitution would leave even Baba Saheb Ambedkar ji quite confused and perplexed. Because you can't have a situation, and I want to expand the debate, that if I win an election, the EVMs are fine. If I get a court case in my favor, the courts are fine. Otherwise, I start jumping from the rooftop, castigating the institutions of democracy because I can't stand Narendra Modi's face. And this is exactly what they are doing. If you see the last press conference, I think about an hour ago, of Saurabh Bharadwaj, you know what he has said? It is actually contemptuous. He has said that the reason why the High Court, which they don't trust, has given this order is because it had to justify the stay put on the trial court order. He has directly undermined and also committed contempt of court. And let me just read out a couple of things that the High Court has actually said. The High Court very reasonably has said that, if the lower court has not gone through the voluminous records, how were they on para 36 concluding that the arguments of both sides have been dealt with? They found that the arguments that were made in the judgment didn't actually hold to ground the fact that the entire material was taken on record. Even on section 45, section 70, the arguments were not heard. And the ED's case that their arguments were not heard was done after hearing the other side as well, after hearing all the dalils or all the arguments made by Abhishek Manu Singhvi and other team lawyers of Aam Aadmi Party. So the final point I want to make is only this, that they are going to now undermine the entire court system. Secondly, this entire idea of jumping up with joy when a bail is given, bail is routine. Bail is a matter of procedure. But bail, when it's marketed as a clean sheet, then obviously today when you have not got bail or you've been denied bail, what does that imply as per your own standards? That you are guilty. So today, the Aam Aadmi Party should stop committing contempt of court and should accept by their own standards, they are now not acquitting themselves, but actually getting themselves in a position of guilt.
Okay, let me bring in, before I bring in Dr. Muni and Abhijit Iyer Mitra, let me bring in a lawyer and get what is known as an expert view on this entire issue. Jai Anand Tehadrai, thank you very much. Let me just begin by asking you, how do you see the High Court's actions? Are they mala fide, as the AAP proclaims? Is the High Court a weather vane, for the lack of or a wind vane? Whichever way the wind blows, it turns. Is that what's really happening here in this case? Is there a justified reason to make this sort of claim against the High Court?
Rahul, firstly, thank you for having me on your show. Let me start by saying this. I'm going to stick my neck out and say this. The Honorable Supreme Court is going to hear this matter tomorrow. In my view, it's going to uphold what the High Court has done. Because if you go through what the trial court has stated in its order, it is, for lack of a better phrase, utterly appalling. You have to go through that trial court order to really believe what has been written in it. None of the special considerations that are contained in the PMLA, because as you know, the PMLA, Rahul, deals with a special class of offences. These are not your regular run-of-the-mill IPC offences. These are very, very serious financial offences, money laundering, layering, processing of funds obtained from proceeds of crime. So the class of offences that the PMLA deals with are in an entirely different league. And so therefore, when you're dealing with an accused person who's accused of these offences, you need to deal with them a little differently. And bail and liberty, for instance, also has to be dealt with differently. Now, someone as influential as Mr. Kejriwal, if he's granted bail while the investigation is still red hot, we can only imagine what the concerns of the investigating agencies would be in a scenario like that. So I think the trial court order, as Mr. Poonawala very rightly pointed out, the trial court completely ignores Section 45, the special requirements for bail. In fact, the second requirement talks about a prima facie assessment by the judge whether or not there is guilt on the part of the accused. That is very important, because unless that judge is also able to, to offer logical reasoning as to why that judge believes that there is no guilt on the part of the accused, bail is considered inappropriate, and that is the law of the land. Whether I like it or whether you like it is immaterial, but that is the law. And so therefore the trial court judge completely ignores that aspect. That is number one. And number two, there's another bizarre, absolutely bizarre, uncalled for statement, which in fact even the High Court points out in its order. There is a reference to evidence and material that the ED has brought on record, and it is almost suggested that Mr. Kejriwal has not been named in the scheduled offence by the CBI and the CBI FIR and so on. But the trial court completely ignores the subsequent judgment of the Supreme Court, which says that it isn't required. So you have a vacation court judge that really, to my mind, has sent the law on vacation in passing such a ridiculous order. So I have no qualms in saying, with an order as weak as this, granting bail, the Supreme Court tomorrow will perhaps very likely uphold what the High Court has done in staying it. This is my personal and professional view in the matter.
Okay, well, not given to basically jumping to conclusions myself, personally, viewers, I want to bring in Abhijit Iyer Mitra before I bring in Dr. Muni. Dr. Muni, who's of course going to defend the Aam Aadmi Party, hopefully tonight. But Abhijit Iyer Mitra, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We never do, as you know. We never do. We never get carried away on days when bail is granted or jail is, sort of underwritten, etc., etc. We take it as it is, the normal course, what have you. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about the opposition, but that's a different matter altogether. Mr. Iyer, now, given that the opposition, as Shahzad Poonawala, to borrow his phrase, has set the bar that high, where does this leave the AAP, the India Bloc, the Congress, and all of those cheerleaders?
Thanks, Rahul. I've always been uncomfortable with detention without conviction, unless, of course, there's some serious questioning to be done, which I'm quite sure the ED could have finished off by this time. Irrespective, let's just measure this. My feelings in this are completely irrelevant. What we need to take into account is the AAP's feelings on this. This was the same party, Rahul, if you remember. Not too long back, they were saying resignation first, investigation later. This was the same party that was running a little Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge kind of kangaroo court trials at every street corner in Delhi. and basically pointing at every single politician in India saying, "Tu jail jayega, tu jail jayega, tu jail jayega, tu jail jayega." They were literally making up lists of enemies to send to jail. And they were not subtle about it. They were very public about it. Short of being the killing fields, I mean, there's no fields around Delhi. So maybe the killing Aravallis of Delhi, that is exactly what these guys were planning. Now, when the same law is applied to them, Rahul, you tell me on the face of it, I am not saying that there is any corruption in the Delhi liquor deal. It is the AAP itself saying that it was a flawed policy. Otherwise, why would they take it back? Why would Manish Sisodia have cancelled that policy and taken it back? Right? Where did this money? Fine. Maybe Arvind Kejriwal is not arrested in the liquor scandal. He's actually arrested in the case which is the proceeds of a crime and using that for elections in Goa. Where did this money come from? This is what I don't understand. They are still not able to account for the money. Fine, sure, the money wasn't illegal, it was perfectly legal, etc., etc. But where did the money come from? That they are not able to account for. Now, in the AAP's own little kangaroo courts, this was more than enough to hang you from a lamppost. But when it happens to them, completely different standards apply to them. How is that possible, Rahul? So Arvind Kejriwal, I think, should be held to the laws of the land, not to his own little kangaroo court. But the problem is, AAP has supported this kind of detention without conviction in its entire history till it happens to Arvind Kejriwal. अब कहाँ मुंह दिखाने के लायक रह गए हैं?
Okay, Dr. Muni, you've heard three different varied views. One is a person who's an interested party representing the BJP. You've heard a lawyer who's taken a very dispassionate view, and you've heard a citizen's voice on this channel. All of them seem to put you in the dock. Your hurry to give or link the bail to Mr. Kejriwal's innocence. Now what happens, sir? Are you going to say that Mr. Kejriwal is guilty by the dint of what you said yourself earlier?
Okay, Rahul ji, first of all, Shahzad Poonawala ji is the BJP spokesperson. J. Anand Dehadrai is the supporter of Bharatiya Janata Party. He has cases against opposition. And the fellow you have named here, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who has no idea about the case, who talks baseless, is a supporter again of Bharatiya Janata Party. And I am against 1:4. So I hope that you will pardon me that expressions.
But Kejriwal to sab pe bhari hai. What is your big deal? It's fine. First of all, linking people, hitting below the belt, not answering the question. It's fair enough. It's okay. Look, one second. Arey bhai, why are you getting so excited, Dr. Muni? I'm only stating what you said. You're linking people. You're not addressing the question. You want to. Okay, fine. You want to personalize it? Go ahead. That's the Aap style. Aap personalize कीजिए, कोई बात नहीं. करिए personalize. But answer the question. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, you guys were leaping off your seats, proclaiming Kejriwal's innocence. Today, bail has been denied. Is he guilty?
No, bail is not denied. The order is stayed. Okay. We all know that this excise scam is baseless and has been written by people in Bharatiya Janata Party. Not a single paisa has been recovered from any person of Aam Aadmi Party till now on record as per the honorable courts. When this case was being heard in the trial court, when the High Court stayed it 3 days ago, interestingly, the court order was not uploaded at that point in time when the High Court stayed it. So, which is very unusual as per the Honorable Supreme Court, which is not usual. So, let's wait for the Supreme Court. अगर ट्रायल कोर्ट ने कोई जजमेंट दी और हाई कोर्ट ने उसको
नहीं आप तो वेट नहीं किए ना. You didn't wait for the Supreme Court. You didn't wait for the High Court. You proclaimed Mr. Kejriwal innocent on the back of a vacation bench order, right? You didn't wait for anyone. Like Mr. Iyer Mitra said, resignation first, investigation later. And I want to bring in Shehzad Punawala on this point.
क्यों नहीं वेट किया?
हाँ, क्यों नहीं वेट किया? हाँ, बताइए,
मैं
क्यों नहीं
बता रहा
वेट
हूँ
किया?
क्यों नहीं वेट
हाँ,
किया?
क्यों नहीं किया?
क्योंकि जो ट्रायल कोर्ट ने सारे
Of
जजमेंट
course,
सारे
I'll bring you in.
evidences सुन के
Yeah.
And I'd like to just
ट्रायल कोर्ट
respond
ने
to it
सारे
very quickly.
एविडेंस सुन
I
के
didn't write section
No, one
45
second, one at a time. Let Dr. Muni finish, and I'll give you all an opportunity to rebut him. We are not running away here. Yeah.
ट्रायल कोर्ट
Yes.
ने सारे तथ्यों को सुन के सारे एविडेंस को ध्यान में रख के जजमेंट पास किया. हाई कोर्ट ने उसको स्टे किया है, कोई नया जजमेंट पास नहीं हुआ है.
Okay, viewers.
So,
When it
Supreme
came
Court
to a
provided-
lower court, Dr. Muni and his team of groupies, Kejriwal groupies, went completely apoplectic. They said, wow, this is democracy is alive in this country, the dictator is lost. Today, they are running under the closest bit, viewers, of woodwork to hide. Yes, Shehzad Punawala.
You know, usually I am very circumspect about commenting about even those orders which have been overturned or stayed by the higher courts.
True.
But having said that, because Mr. Muni has drawn me into this, the trial court has said in its order that we have not gone through the voluminous records. You just claimed that सारे तथ्य records देखकर ये judgment था. That is clearly not even consonance with the trial court order. The trial court itself has admitted, the learned judge, that I have not gone through the records. So therefore, you are right or the trial court judge is right. Secondly, sir, this trial court order is now worth nothing because it has been stayed by a high court. But in March 2024, there is another high court order that is on Mr. Kejriwal specifically, which has said Mr. Kejriwal's arrest is not illegal and prima facie he is involved in money laundering. That prima facie all the arguments you and your Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party team make, chavanni nahi mili, approver ye hai, approver aisa hai, all of that had been dismissed. And that High Court order, by the way, has not been stayed by Supreme Court. So essentially that High Court order and its castigation of Mr. Kejriwal stands as of today. But here is the Aam Aadmi Party, and only the Aam Aadmi Party is capable of this. After 10 years of being in power, they'll sit on dharna, saying that now we are in dharna for water. And after a High Court has categorically, in prima facie way, at least commented on what Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party has done, they will take recourse in a lower court order, which has been stayed. Only the Aam Aadmi Party can do this. No other party in the entire world can do this.
Okay, well, let me bring in Mr. Dehad Rai. He needs to respond to the low blow that was...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I just wanted to point out to this gentleman that I haven't enacted Section 45 of the PMLA, neither have you, neither has Mr. Poonawala, and certainly neither has Mr. Abhijit Iyer Mitra. So I don't know what his personal grouse is against any of us here. So it's irrelevant. The point is that the rule book has not been followed. That is what the High Court has observed in its order. I wish Mr. Muni would read the High Court's order and he would understand, if he read it carefully, that there are very scathing observations against the trial court, and that the trial court has overlooked several things. As you rightly pointed out, this can't be an excuse that there were thousands of pages and we never read them. Well, then you shouldn't have passed an order immediately. You should have taken your time, gone through the material, and then passed an order. And in any case, you know, India, there is a system in India, and the legal system works very well. You file a bail application, it is heard, it's either allowed or rejected, and the next day you can appeal it either way. So to say this, to start jumping in joy and saying that, look, the trial court has pronounced me innocent after it has entirely ignored what the PMLA and what the statute book requires, I think it's a little laughable. And I think Mr. Muni should do better research before he comes on a public forum like this, rather than embarrassing himself in such a pathetic manner. I mean, it's quite sad.
Okay, 1 second. Before I bring in Dr. Muni,
And
1 second.
And one more thing very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Rahul.
No,
Let's
please.
point out another very quickly.
Yeah.
Section 24 of the PMLA reverses the burden.
Yes.
And, you know, if he would have read the statute book, and, you know, I can organize a little primer for them, for their little group, if they need to understand the PMLA a little bit better. But Section 24 reverses the burden that is placed on an accused person when they're accused under the PMLA. So it is really for Mr. Kejriwal to explain, as Mr. Iyer pointed out, Mr. Mitra pointed out very rightly, that where did the money come from to finance that Gypsy campaign in Goa? Who financed it? Where did the money come from? They have to explain. And please understand, a Section 3 offense, Rahul, it happens in two phases. You have the predicate offense, which is basically the offence that takes place prior, through which proceeds of crime are generated. And subsequently, there is a second aspect to that offence, for which you don't necessarily have to be booked under a predicate offence, which is that you just layer or process those proceeds that have come to you. And it is the latter for which Mr. Kejriwal will have to explain as the head of the Aam Aadmi Party, that how did he get these funds? He knowingly used funds that he knew had come from tainted sources. This is a question that he has to answer. And that burden is on him in terms of Section 24.
Well, there you go, viewers. It's been so lucidly put out there. That's why we got Mr. Dehad Rai. Now, Mr. Iyer, Mr. Dehad Rai invoked an expression. We have a system in India. Now, who loves to bring down systems? And what do the AAP call themselves? There is a phrase that they use for themselves.
बहुत क्रांतिकारी, बहुत क्रांतिकारी.
Anarchists.
They are not anarchists, Rahul. They are nihilists. An anarchist wants to create anarchy all around. A nihilist wants to destroy everything through anarchy all around. And that is what AAP is. They've got a one-point agenda, which is come to power at any rate. They don't care if they destroy your kids' education, give them the placebo of giving them a good education and destroy the child's future. They don't care.
Okay.
Water. They don't take any responsibility for it. Everything is everybody else's responsibility. They are the living incarnation of the Immaculate Conception themselves.
Okay, okay. Well, I think you've hit back with equal measure. Let me bring back Dr. Muni. Dr. Muni, you heard Mr. Dehad Rai, you've heard Mr. Poonawala. They made very pointed arguments. You said, हर तथ्यों में घुसे पड़े थे. ये कौन है? न्याय बिंदु जी. She got into every tathya. The High Court says, but you've overlooked so many documents.
See, it is the Honorable Court to decide which document the Honorable Court wants to go through and which not. You and I cannot comment on that. The High Court can comment and the Supreme Court can also comment on the High Court.
It has. It has castigated the lower court that you were extolling. So I'm asking you.
The Supreme Court,
no, 1 second. I'm not going to allow you. No, my dear friend. I've had enough of you chaps. When you guys have the wind behind your tails, you are clawing at everybody, ripping them up. You've done this a number of times in the past also, and I've never ever held that against you. That's your job, and you do a fantastic job. Fantastic one. I have to commend you for that. But sir, please, honest to God, put your hand on your heart tonight and tell me that this is not a setback for Mr. Kejriwal, that you don't believe that somehow he has become guilty again after having been proclaimed innocent by your own party. Come on. I mean, put your hand on your heart. Do you think we are all, fools here, and the viewers don't have a memory at all? Come on. Let's be honest.
Now you have let me to speak.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, yeah. First of all, I want to tell my advocate colleague here that the legality of arrest of this particular person called Arvind Kejriwal itself is under challenge in the Honorable Supreme Court. So let's not jump the gun and state something which is not. Now, he was talking about high courts. Now, let me quote Honorable Supreme Court. And I'm quoting, not paraphrasing. Justice Khanna says, nothing has been recovered in this particular case. There is no trace. This is Honorable Supreme Court. Now, if you don't want to acknowledge the Honorable Supreme Court, that's your wish. Okay. Third point. There was one colleague here who was talking about future of children. The best results in this country is given by Delhi schools. Interestingly, गाय घूमती है यूपी के स्कूल्स में. इनको उससे कोई लेना देना नहीं. ओडिशा में गाय घूमती है इनके स्कूल्स में, कोई लेना देना नहीं इनको. ठीक है, उस समय इनके मुंह पे बंद लग जाता है.
Quick response.
हमारे political
Mr. Dehad Rai putting his hand up and Shahzad Poonawala on the political point. Yes.
In 10 seconds, what is he talking about? Is he talking about the same Mr. Kejriwal that swore on his children's lives that he would not enter politics after proclaiming that he would be only an activist? We should take. Does he want us to say that that person has any credibility in a public forum? What is he talking about?
Well,
and second, Section 45. I wish my friend would read Section 45. The High Court has specifically said that the requirements of Section 45 have not even been acknowledged. There's not a whisper of it.
Okay, and
when
you know
when
this
the
business of selectively quoting the Supreme Court, nothing has been recovered. Of course, nothing has been recovered. The ED says it itself. But viewers, it
No,
was
no, I want
spent.
to point that out as well. The same bench, Rahul, one
Yeah.
moment. The same bench that granted interim bail is the same bench that asked him to go right back into prison. What is
Yes.
he talking about?
Okay, what's
What
he
is
talking about? Shadad Poonawalla, what's he talking about? Respond.
And secondly, just more importantly, the Supreme Court had said that prima facie there was a tentative money link of 338 crores. In fact, the lower court and the high courts have even established a 100 crore trail to Manish Sisodia. So, again, selectively cherry picking one statement or one question, it's not even an observation. What
Yeah.
he's quoting is Justice Khanna in the course of a proceeding, raising a question to the ED that is being quoted as an observation and judgment and finding.
Okay, well,
This is Aam Aadmi Party.
Viewers,
Only the
they
Aam Aadmi
will
Party can
read,
do this.
they will read in every line a acknowledgement of innocence when they want to, viewers. That's the problem. And I said that day, do not make bail and jail link it to the end. Please, don't make that mistake. But here, viewers, of course, they do, and when they're cornered, they pass the buck. I'll take a very short break, viewers. When we come back, a very important story about how propriety has been upended in Parliament. Don't go away.